Hi guys, my name is Neil Gonsalves. I'm a jazz pianist. I teach music at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Today I'd like to show you 4 improvisational exercises. I don't think of these exercises as jazz per se, just stuff that I think could be useful in terms of preparing to improvise. I'm going to use a tune called Autumn Leaves to demonstrate this, and the first kind of improvisational exercise is a melodic one, so based around the melody of Autumn Leaves. It's a very traditional way of improvising in jazz. You listen to improvisers like Louis Armstrong before the 1940s, and you hear improvisation that's based around the melody. Okay, you get the idea. A lot of embellishment, a lot of rephrasing. What I identify in that melody is this interval of the sixth. Sixth. And so then I start to approach that sixth from different directions. For example. I can also invert the sixth. And so on. Okay, let's move on to a scalar approach. This is quite also very traditional, maybe the most common way of improvising. This is simply recognizing what the chords are and the scales that correspond with those chords. Now, one important thing to remember is that chords come from scales, not the other way around. So when I look at my first chord, it is representing a scale. Right? In this instance, the first chord is C minus 7. The first scale is C Dorian. I don't want to get too much into that kind of information, but I'm going to start playing the scales, and then you'll start to hear me doing more variations around that. C Dorian. Okay, so you start to hear that I'm playing more and more around with these scales in at least two respects. One is in terms of the direction of the scale. So instead of just playing, you'll hear me do things like breaking it up into thirds, for example. Now there's a very important reason I do that, and that's because as jazz musicians we are supposed to be able to hear and sing the things that we play. That's what I just played. So when I play a chord, Excuse my singing voice. But what I'm trying to demonstrate is that I can hear all of the scales that go with those chords. And so when I play, what I'm actually representing, excuse me, is what I'm hearing. So if I just go straight up and down a scale, before I know it, I'll be out of my range. So to try and keep what I'm playing within my range, as in the range that I can hear, which is the range that I sing, I start to play more and more with a change of direction to keep it within my range. Now those little decorative things, those are very stylistic things that come out of the music itself. So when you listen to bebop musicians, for example, like Charlie Parker, or musicians that came before them, all of these kind of decorative figures are the things that really make jazz jazz. Okay, I want to move on to a third approach. And basically, it's still, you'll hear a lot of the same concepts, but now this is what I call an arpeggiated approach. Instead of using the scales, I'll base my improvisation around the chords and the spelling out of those chords. C minor 7. Okay, so similar concept, lots of change of direction, moving it up and down, but effectively the difference is that the intervals are bigger. So where I was moving stepwise before, now I'm moving in intervals of thirds. But the thing about jazz is that a lot of times these chords have got extensions in them. In other words, notes that are beyond the seventh. So I got root, third, 5, 7. Then I can go to 9th, 11th, 13th, and so on. So when I play these arpeggiations, sometimes I'm including some of those extensions as well. Okay, I want to move on to the last kind of improvisational approach. And these are pentatonics. Pentatonic is a 5-note scale. It doesn't have any semitones in it. And these are the pentatonics that correspond with these chords. Sometimes I use pentatonics that are outside the chords, and it's mainly for a coloristic effect. So here you hear a lot of patterning, a lot of sequence, and that's one of the things that you can kind of hear maybe throughout the things that I do, is that I take certain kinds of shapes and then I repeat them. So for example, now I could take that and I can move it around. So I take the same thing, and that's just an example of what we call going outside. Something maybe we can talk about another day. Okay, so hopefully you found those approaches useful in terms of improvisation. Improvisation is something to have fun with, and like I say, these are not jazz specific ideas, so you can apply them, I think, to almost any kind of tune. Have fun with it, and thanks for listening.